Sea or the the plagues, or they use that for compositing as well.
I understand that's what you're talking about. They're basically using a lot of rear screen projection shots.
Correct. Right. So I think they wanted to have those in hand because obviously those things took the longest to put together, to composite. So I think they wanted to start with Egypt as the raw material for their special effects.
No, one thing that I've always in a perverse way enjoyed about the Ten Commandments is that it has never looked in the least bit geographically authentic to me. To me, those mountains could have been in the Sierras. They could have that desert scene when Ramses takes Charlton Heston out and says, "Okay, here you go. Here's one day's ration of bread. You're on your own." That could have been in Palmdale. It doesn't matter. I don't believe any of it.
But I think the fact is that is actually Egypt.
Okay.
And I can't, guarantee you. I don't know the actual every shot where every shot was filmed, but just based on the fact that those shots in particular are like virtually unfaded.
Yeah.
I can assure you that would be the 1954 footage. So when they cut to, particularly that shot of, one day's bread,
right.
It's like, boom, that's Egypt, boom, that's Egypt. And you could tell when you were going through the film, it's like, what was, the early stuff and what was shot later.
What I love about it is the ripeness of the color and the sounds on the soundstage stuff. To me, when they cut away to actual real outdoor footage, to me that's like when the movie shuts down a little bit. Okay, bring us back to the soundstage and everything, because to me it's a soundstage movie all the way. And it's
but there is also just such a large, a combination of it's everything. It's a little bit soundstage, or a lot soundstage, especially in the first half of the movie. Then you get into like the second half, and it's no two shots are the same, and it's all some are as is, some are Egypt, some are composited, some are Egypt in the background, and and studio shots in the foreground. It's it's really all over the place. So
if I were an Egyptian charioteer and the Red Sea had just crashed down on me, I'm going to tell you, I was just thinking about the logistics of it. I would find some way to swim to the surface. I wouldn't be automatically. I wouldn't consider myself a dead man. I would do everything I can to. Don't you think that some of those guys actually survived? Maybe even some of the.
Well, I have to say, if you've ever been in like a big surf or done any body surfing or actually, surfing at all, and a wave hits you, you literally don't know which end is up.
That's true.
And you can start swimming. Most people start swimming downward, and
that's exactly
bottom again.
That's precisely
the
case.
Completely, there's nothing like the ocean to completely disorient you.
Right. You know what I was really delighted with, Ron? This is a real first, because I've been looking at this movie since I was a kid, is for the first time I was able to really detect, almost on in a sensual way, the feeling and the particulars of the weave of the various garments that Anne Baxter was wearing, that everybody was wearing. You could really see it much more clearly. Really delightful.
I agree. I mean, every day while I was watching it, not a day went by when I wasn't amazed by something about the film, whether it was the costumes or the jewelry or just the framing of each shot, and how he used the backgrounds and the actors even to frame up everything.
Mm-hmm. The paint that was applied very freshly to each and every chariot. I mean, it's like, it's really just so much fun from a simple eye candy level.
It sure is, and it's an amazing palette, and they really took great pains to make it as authentic as possible, but really not detract from the actors and the their performances.
Now, how long altogether, from the very first time you got to work on it, until you finally delivered all the elements to the people in charge of putting together the Blu-ray, how long did it take altogether?
It took well over a year, to make the first the theatrical version and then make the longer versions of the film. But photochemically, I mean, I think we've been working on this. I mean, I think I just got the last element delivered last week, which was actually, we made another VistaVision negative, believe it or not.
Okay.
And so that would be at least 2 years from when we started photochemically to we ended photochemically.
Right. So you're making two versions. You were charged to make two versions, one for the Blu-ray and another what you call the theatrical version.
Right.
And the theatrical version, I presume, would just where the only difference I would think would be that when you hear the entr'acte, the overture, or whatever, you don't see an image, you just hear it, and otherwise it's pretty much the same thing, right?
It's pretty much the same thing, yeah. The ABC version or the theatrical version isn't going to have the entr'acte music, obviously, or the overture music or the exit music. Mm-hmm. And again, does not have the CB DeMille intro.
Yeah. But you were talking earlier about the theatrical version. So are you talking about three different versions here? Theatrical, Blu-ray?
Well, that's a good question. See, when we output the theatrical version, we also output, because we output that to film, what we did is we output exactly what was on the film, which includes the CB DeMille.
Right.
So we output that separately as like a real 1A. Mm-hmm. So if you did go see a print of it in the theater, you would see that introduction.
Okay.
We feel that's part of the film. But we didn't want to make a longer version to film because we would have ended up rebalancing the reel, cutting into the reels and making, reel breaks where they weren't, where they were never imagined. So, where they weren't supposed to be.
Now, you had an invitational screening of this film at the large Paramount Theater, right? Not too long ago?
Yes.
And that was, what, about a week, two weeks ago?
That was about a week ago, yeah.
Now, it was projected digitally or it was projected via film?
Digitally.
I have an idea that it would be a little sharper and cleaner and more delectable digitally.
It just depends on your taste. I mean, I think more than any film that I've ever worked on, at this type of resolution, no matter what we did to it, it just turned out beautiful. I mean, I thought there was something I liked about the digital projection. There's something that I really like about the high-def presentation, but there's also something I really like about the way the film turned out. So going over to Technicolor and looking at the film outputs, the prints that we made from the negative, they were just gorgeous. Every print that came off was beautiful.
So was it, as these things go, what you would call an expensive, costly project?
Well, anytime you get into, the thing about VistaVision is it's twice as big. It's meaning there's twice as much information. Right. And also this film is twice as long as a normal film. So, you can do the math, anything, so basically you have to multiply, a normal budget or workflow by 4.
Yeah. All right, so, and the reason that Paramount... which, let's be honest about this, they're known as being very reticent about making investments in their much honored library, at least the big titles. The reason they saw that this is a necessary thing was because they see it as a renewable, as an evergreen that will always be popular, will always be showable, and it's a something that people will be responding to 10 years, 20 years from now, right?
Well, I think that we've really made an effort, like studio-wide, to preserve and restore our library. But when you start with, but we basically obviously start at the top with the most popular titles, and this, is arguably, one of those.
Right. Well, just to raise a sore point, what about Poor Shane? That's not a popular title?
Shane is obviously a popular title, so.
And it's a beautiful title.
It's a beautiful title. It's
beautiful.
It's one of those titles similar to The African Queen. Yeah. That's one of our 1950s color titles, which are 3-strip.
Yeah.